All right, now in this lesson what we're going to do is take a look at how we can control the camera's orientation. So this is where we're going to get into some sub-actions, actually just one particular type of sub-action, CamOrientation. And we're going to look at two different types. We're going to look at interpolation, and we're going to look at. Okay, that's kind of confusing. Look at, but that's what it's called.
Right.
We're going to be looking at a target. So right now, if you remember what we've got, if I come back over here and preview this, is basically our camera is looking down the path like such. Right? You know, maybe we don't want to do something like that. As a matter of fact, most of the time, you're not going to want to be looking down a path. You're going to want to do one of a couple of things. One, you're going to want to rather interpolate between two angles. In other words, if you have the camera looking, like in our case, if you remember, let's go ahead and close out our preview right here. And come down here as a quick refresher. We have the camera. Remember when I pointed it down to the ground?
Right.
So wouldn't it be nice to tell this to start out having our camera actually pointing at the ground and then having it interpolate over time so that it then, by the time it gets all the way up to here, it's now rotated so that it is looking like over there.
Right.
Okay? So while everybody cannot see my hand, I can at least show you, Joel. Basically, my hand is pointing down, and then as it travels along the path, it slowly arcs up and rotates over, so it's looking that way. So how do we go about doing this?
Magic.
Well, okay. It's magic. Actually, it's not quite magic. It's very simple. We'll come over here and select the first action, so where this segment begins, okay? So for now, I'm going to start referring to these as a segment, okay? So segment begins here. Now I'm going to come over to sub-actions. Now each action can manage a list of sub-actions.
Right.
Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and you're going to notice that when I create or click the Add New Sub-Action button, that we've got several different types of sub-actions that we can add. It's not as limited as with just regular actions where we only had move a camera or do a pause. Here we've got things like sub-action scene speed, game speed, orientation, camera shake, field of view, trigger, fade, and camera effect. And we're going to try to take a look at most of these throughout this entire series of VTMs over Matinee. So right now what we're interested in doing is coming down here to orientation. So let's go ahead and do a sub-action orientation. We'll throw that in there. And now I'm going to come down and expand orientation. So there's CamOrientation I was talking about a second ago. Let's go ahead and expand that. And let's move down a little bit. So CamOrientation, you'll notice that the default is face path, which is what we've got right now. The camera is looking down the path as we travel along it. Now, we've got several different types, but in this VTM, the things that we're interested in are going to be look at actor or interpolate. So let's go ahead and start by setting this to interpolate, and now let's see what we get when we come back in here and we preview our cutscene. So I'll hit play, and look at this.
Ooh.
So a completely different feel now. Completely different. So we're starting out looking, let's go ahead and just kind of drag this over here. We're looking straight down at the water, dragging along while starting to twist and turn until we're looking up. So it could be perhaps a little bit confusing. So one way to make this a little bit easier to see is check this out. This is a nifty little trick. Like maybe I may want to come up here and what if I wanted to reorientate this guy? What's the easiest way to go about doing it? Well, I can come over here and I can click on the Lock to Selected Actor button. Click on that. Click on this camera, and what happens is my viewport camera just snapped to this actor, and now this actor is basically point and orient constrained to my camera, so that as I move my viewport around, the camera, or the interpolation point, is going to move around as well. So check this out. If I just simply maybe rotate this over, maybe something like that. Now all I need to do is simply click this again, and if I back away, look at that. Okay. So now if I look at the preview again and take a look at what we have, so this time we have a different feel because we're no longer twisting over to the side. Okay?
Very nice.
So this can be a bit confusing. Since we've got, I guess the big thing that's making it so confusing is because of the way we're treating the curve right here. It would probably be a little bit easier to see this if I was to come in here, select the curve, right-click on it, and say Straighten Out Bezier Curves like such. Okay, now by selecting that, check this out. Notice how my sub-actions just cleared out?
Ooh.
Kind of a tip here. Look over here on actions. By selecting the curve, it's like selecting the segment. We've selected the last action in that segment,
right.
And this action is not managing any sub-actions. But this one, so if I come back and click on him, He is. He's got one in there.
So each action that you have has
can have its
sub-actions.
own independent sub-action list.
Right.
That's right. So now let's go ahead and come back over here and preview again and see if this is a little bit easier to see what's happening. Okay, so that's not quite as bad. Okay, and the camera
That's actually pretty straightforward.
slowly pans up. Yeah.